This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Moms Show. Your host, Felice is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at mediaangels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hey everyone, welcome to Vintage Homeschool Moms. This is episode 269, Running Your Family Like a CEO. And my name is Felice Gerwitz, and you can find the show notes at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Look for podcast episode 269.
When it comes to learning difficulties like dyslexia, lasting change starts with the right approach. At the Morris Center, we go beyond traditional tutoring, offering comprehensive, evidence-based programs that retrain the brain for lifelong success. With over 35 years of experience, we've helped thousands of clients overcome learning challenges in just months, not years. Find out how we can help your child succeed at themorriscenter.com.
Well, today I am going to continue my series on the CEO theme. And the reason, of course, is because of my husband and I running a bunch of companies. So I was really looking at efficient ways to do what I'm doing. And it really just hit me. We can run our companies so flawlessly. And then on the other hand, our families sometimes have some issues. So that's kind of what we're looking at today. I want to thank our sponsor, Like Arrows, a movie that examines family values and bringing up kids. Something you will not want to miss. It's a great family film, for parenting, and you'll want to check that out. Well, can you imagine running your family like a CEO? We're going to explore that and much more. And I know that in the other episode, I talked about a CEO as a leader, which can be mom or dad, that is responsible for day-to-day management decisions, mostly mom who's at home, or it could be dad, and for implementing the goals long and short term. Both mom and dad have a hand in that. But a CEO also communicates and is a liaison. And so when you look at the family structure, there are so many things going on that mimic that. You know, my husband is the head of his company, and often during the day, he'll call me and we'll say, hi, and then launch into something he needs. Or he calls me and expects me to take notes or remind him to do something later. My official title is Secretary Treasurer of the company. However, with kids at home and homeschooling, it sometimes becomes really hectic for me, but not for him, because he's got me to help him with that. And he gets lots done, and he's efficient, and he's a delegator, and he knows how to bring things in under budget and for a profit. And so, in talking to him, it really gave me the idea of why can't we run our home and our families like we run our company? Wouldn't it be great not to be wasteful? Wouldn't it be great to not allow for inferior quality of work, schoolwork, or chores? Wouldn't it be great that our employee, our child, is in a job that matches his skill set and his qualifications? And if not, either we need to get him ready for that, or we need to give the job to someone else. And more importantly, to be able to raise our kids in what our goals are for our family, and that is the love of God. So first, I want to go through some family dynamics and some things that I feel are important to families, and that is, number one, is your relationship with God. If your relationship with God is off, this is going to transfer to your spouse and to your kids. And family dynamics is all about relationships. It's all about caring. It's all about, what ends up happening is the hurt and the disagreements and, being at war with each other. And I always look at, the world stage, for example, and like we're supposed to get along with all these foreign countries when we can't even get along as a family. So it's important to have that relationship with God and to make sure that is on track. And I have a podcast, A Few Minutes with God, podcast.com, that you'll want to check out. And we talk all about those types of things. The second is relationship when it comes to each other. How do we treat each other? Do we show each other respect? The way we treat each other shows what's in our hearts. And that isn't always something we're proud of, right? So just think about that, pray about that. And the third is job description. How well do we do the job or the task at hand? So as a CEO, let's look at the first point, and that is as leader. As parents, we lead by example. If we're not doing our part, our kids are going to see this. We have what I feel is an epidemic, and that is sloppy parenting. Do what I say, but not as I do. Now, I didn't suffer from that as much as I suffered from the next one, and that is sometimes I was guilty of ineffective parenting. Through the years, I got lazy. I didn't want to get up to discipline a child who wasn't listening. I just wanted to tell or yell. And so that didn't work as well as it should in my mind. Why aren't you doing what I say? Well, maybe because there isn't respect there, or maybe because I have not had follow through. Ineffective parenting or leadership can also be, promising things. I was very, very careful not to promise anything that didn't happen. And it only took a couple of times for plans to fall through to realize that your kids really hold on to those promises and can be really affected by it. For us, plans change all the time. It's not a big deal. But for kids, it could be devastating. So that is part of ineffective leadership. Plans fall through all the time or a lot of the time. Promises that are not kept. How many times have your kids said, well, you promised? And we want to turn around and say, well, you promised to pick up your toys and you didn't. Kind of can't do that because we are the leader. And another ineffective parenting or leadership role is not being around. There was a whole thing that was propagated by the media of quality time versus quantity time. And it was, it's so much better to have quality time with your kids and really be focused on them. Truthfully, I haven't seen the fruit of that being a good thing. On the, reverse side, I've watched the homeschooling movement grow and grow and grow. And many dads coming home to work from home. My husband always made sure that he was home in the afternoon. We have tried really, really hard, especially as our youngest children are playing a lot more sports. And the first two played more rec ball. The last three played more, seriously, for lack of a better term. And we made every effort possible, even with my husband getting off of work early, to make these games. We do have the luxury of owning our own business, but with that comes employees. You can't just, close shop and not expect your employees to work. So there's a balance there, but we try very, very hard to attend all our kids' games and do as much as we can in that regard. And, it's important. Our kids know what they see. And unfortunately, that's all they're able to process at the time. And they'll know if there's an absentee parent, and a lot of times, it's like, well, I'm at work, you just have to understand that. And it's difficult for a child to understand that. So while we may not be able to be there, what comes to mind are, parents who are in the military, our children really can be affected. And so when the parents are there, the focus really needs to be on building that leadership and that communication and having that communication with their kids. The second point is determining strategic direction. So what are your family goals, and are we following the Lord as a family? For us, that is a major family goal. What are your family goals? What are you trying to do as a family? So that's going to look different depending on your family. Praying together for us is important. Worshiping together, going to church together, spending time together, focusing on our strengths and on our weaknesses. I remember my husband and I often had dinner at the beginning of every school year, and we would discuss what goals we wanted for each of our children. And they included academic and spiritual goals, and also character growth. So we would pick out a character quality that we felt we wanted to encourage in our children. And we never told our children, we never said, son, today we're working with you on the character quality of responsibility. We just together as husband and wife figured out how we wanted our child to attain that goal. How are we going to encourage responsibility? Well, one way was going to be through their job descriptions. What were they going to be responsible for? If it's an older child, you may give them the responsibility of taking out the trash. Now, here at our house, taking out the trash means taking it all the way to the road, and we live on 2.5 acres. So either you're going to drag a trash can all the way to the road, which sometimes is not, you're not able to do that when you're younger, obviously, to the point where as you got older, you got the responsibility of, being able to drive the lawnmower, which had a hitch and a small trailer was attached to it. And believe me, all kinds of things could go wrong. There's a pond. There is, off-roading, which is always very enticing to little kids. Let's drive the tractor in the ditch. I won't mention any names, but one or two of my children were known to do that and get it stuck. It was a responsibility to be able to do that, to take the trash out all the way to the road, or even when they were younger, to take the mail to the mailbox. Of course, I was out there, I was watching them or letting them carry the mail in, and that was also a great treat. So these kinds of things were slowly added to the list under responsibility. And as they, were able to do each task, they were, rewarded with us being really excited or, celebrating that milestone with them, as well as, allowing them some failure. Now, as parents, that is probably one of the hardest things that I am really guilty of. I have a very difficult time allowing my children to fail. I always want high success for my kids. And so in allowing them to fail, it allowed them to take ownership. And as my husband always said and reminded me, that allowing them to fail within the home allowed us to lovingly correct and bring them around to where they needed to be, rather than always saving them, which is what I also would be characterized under ineffective parenting. And we're always saving our kids, and in doing so, we're not allowing them to self-correct and get back to where they need to be. Friends, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about organization, responsibility, communication, and more. We'll be right back.
If conflict or rebellion are beginning to overwhelm your family, it might be time to rethink your parenting strategy. Join us in select movie theaters across the country this May for an authentic story of true family life, the messy, the wonderful, and the redemptive. It's never too late to do the right thing as a parent. The movie Like Arrows will be in theaters 2 nights only, May 1st and 3rd. You can view the trailer or find a theater near you at likearrowsmovie.com.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening and welcome back. Please check out our podcast show notes at Vintage Homeschool Moms. Today's episode, Running Your Home, I did that one last. Running Your Family Like a CEO, podcast number 269. You can find it at Vintage Homeschool Moms. And please do me a favor, share this podcast with a friend, with someone you know who is a homeschooler, or someone who just wants to run their home a little bit better. I don't have all the answers. I am working toward that with all of you, but I have to say things are running a lot better now. That I focused on some particular points, especially, more with a head of a business leader rather than just floating around. I felt sometimes that I was just floating and couldn't get my act together. I have so much more on my plate now and on my schedule. And as I am trying to get the work part of my home done, like I tell my husband, some days I feel like I'm just walking around. I'm picking things up off the floor. I'm, doing dishes. I'm starting laundry. I'm dusting or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. And then I look around and there's 20 more things that need to be done. So with some of the next few tips, I think this will help you out. And the first is organization and delegation. Do you oversee your family needs? What are the things that your family needs the most? And, whether it is a clean home or whether it is, a focus on some particular character quality that we want to encourage in our kids, we want to make sure that, we are doing the best that we can to organize and to make that happen. And so, in this series, I've really tried to point out some things that have worked for us. And one of the things that I have difficulty in doing, and that is following through. And my husband would always say, you can't just assign, for example, a math lesson and not ever check the answers, right? I mean, none of us would even consider doing that. But that's what tends to happen with our families. Like we will say, here's a devotional or a really good book that I'd like you to read. And let's say this is not a school subject that we've given our child. Like I always would put down Bible as part of our homeschool, but we would read other stories or other books. And if I don't follow through and say, I want to report or I want to discuss this with you, it's not going to happen. So when we organize a plan or we delegate, we also have to be able to follow through. Follow through is one of those sticklers for many of us. And if we have difficulty in following through, we can bring on one of our children. Now, I caution you in this because sometimes, power, what is the saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it depends on the child. You may have a child that will take it the wrong way, and you may have a child that will do really well with it. So for example, when I have a bunch of little kids over and they're upstairs playing with Legos, I will delegate to my youngest son to go up and make sure everything is cleaned up instead of to the oldest. And it's amazing because little kids tend to tell you the truth, right? And the older ones will say, yeah, it's good enough. Or the opposite. The older one will, tattletale and so forth. So again, use that sparingly, but another good point, because we can't do it all. And I think that's what happens is we get on this burnout when we try to do everything ourselves. The fourth point is we're responsible for day-to-day management and accountability. So we want to teach our kids to be responsible. And the way to do that is to give them, chores that are going to teach that. The other is the educational needs of our children. We want to look at that. We want to work on character, and that would include the following: job descriptions and follow through, what I call hires and fires. If a job is done ineffectively, we need a course of action. So what is that going to be? Are they going to lose that job? Listen, they may really want to lose that job. So the course of action may mean to make them do it again. One of the things that I required, which is a very minor thing in my mind, is to, after your shower, to pick up your towel, fold it, and hang it on the rack. How difficult is that? I had one child that if I could give out citations, he would have, so many citations, he'd be in big trouble. So I finally realized that my going around behind him, picking up the towel and folding it and putting it on the rack to dry for the next day was only enabling. And we do that a lot, parents. I finally got the brilliant idea not to remind him until he was nice, safely tucked in bed. And then I would go in and say, son, you forgot to hang up your towel. And he looked at me and said, you want me to get up now? And I said, yes. And we kept doing that until he learned. Believe me, it only took 1 or 2 times. I don't remember because it was a while ago. These kinds of things work. So that's one of the things. Delegate jobs and an explanation of how you want them done. If you give the child a job like emptying the trash, what does that mean? It may mean different things. Like you may mean all the trash cans in the house. They may think it just means, their personal trash can by their desk, So, explain what that means, where you want them to put the trash, where you want them to take it. Do you want them to just dump it in the garage or dump it outside for the animals to get to it? Yeah, that's happened around here. Or do you want them to put it in the trash can with the lid and the rock on top of the trash can, or whatever you use to keep out those pesky critters that tend to love the trash? Again, if they have done something incorrectly, does that mean they go out and help pick up the mess? Yes, it's happened around here as well. Accountability, are jobs done daily, weekly, and how are they accomplished? Is there a checkoff list? That helps. Ineffective job completion, do it again. They can be fired from a job and given another job more suited, not necessarily as a punishment. This could actually be a demotion. But it could also be something that is more suited for them. And then hiring a supervisor for the job, if you can't do it, be sure there isn't sibling abuse of power, as I discussed previously. Fifth is communication, identifying needs and remedies. Time spent with God is important for relationships. Time spent with your spouse is important for relationships. And time spent with your children, obviously. And if there is an issue, make sure that those are dealt with. And if you don't know how to deal with them, ask for help. We have some wonderful resources. We have a members group for the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network, and you can find that. We have a Facebook page. If you are on Facebook, that is a wonderful resource for you where you can post questions there, and it is a private group, and I will put that link on the show notes for this website, and then or for this podcast. And then there are resources. So are you using your resources? One would be this Facebook group, our network. You can go to the front page at the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network and type in a topic or question, and all of the podcasts or blog posts that are along those lines will come up. There are lots of family resources out there, but the best family resource tip I can give you is to focus on your family dynamics is time. Spending time with your kids. And the other is planning family outings. Sometimes, we would plan things as a family. And one of the things we did as the kids were younger, and even when they were older, was going camping. Another thing is to have a night that you do everything, whether it's game night or movie night or pizza night or whatever that is, and have that as a focus, because the kids absolutely love that, even when they're older. Reading aloud to your kids, all those kinds of things are wonderful ways for you to stay in touch with your family. Well, I hope this podcast has helped. Please give us a star rating on iTunes, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend. Look for the show notes for podcast 269, Running Your Family Like a CEO, at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Thanks so much. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and TheVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.